entrepreneurs are 35% more likely to have a divorce. 1 out of 3 entrepreneur kids are unable to regulate their emotions because of the family stress, quote unquote, in the house from the business. I was literally subconsciously repeating the circumstances that I grew up with without even knowing it. And on top of that, had taken a pretty big opportunity with a pretty big name, with a couple of big names, Frank Kern, Grant Cardone. We were building an agency. Actual freedom is being able to build a business that allows you to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, how often you want, right?
How much good stuff comes from the people who just refuse to stop showing up. If you believe you're going to be successful, if you believe you're going to have this life, you're far more likely to do it.
And I think that's where kind of like the deciding line is for like when people go like, why am I made for this? It's like, well...
So, I think this would be an awesome conversation. If you would, let's kind of start with the understanding of kind of how we got here. What was that early version of you like, and like your early definition of success? I know that you've been successful in the business world.
Sure.
So you're going to take us through what that early version of you looked like.
Yeah, I mean, hustler to the max, grew up single mom family. And so just given the circumstances and environment, I was told that no one was coming to save me. And so what that meant was that if I wanted something, I had to go get it. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to that, whatever their circumstances were. It's funny, even my 12-year-old, just in the last week, she's my oldest. She is not in an environment, anything similar to what I grew up in, right? However, I have recreated hard circumstances to make her think and be challenged. And so some of the things I hear her saying are similar to things that I said at 12 and 13 when I started to take care of myself, for lack of better terms, obviously inside my mom's house still, but she's a hustler and she's thinking along the lines of like, well, if you're not going to do it for me, I'll do it for myself, type of
right.
Autonomy and ownership and desire even. And that's really what I would describe Chaz Wolfe, especially the young Chaz Wolfe. It was like, I wanted more, we didn't have a bunch. I had a great example in my mom of hard work and kind of a never quit, no excuses, rub dirt on your boo-boo and keep rolling, and so, yeah, the early success was in sales, kind of learning to develop the skill of communication. Not only just that I couldn't browbeat people into their decisions, like from a like aggressive communication, but then also like the persuasion, understanding psychology, how people make decisions, lowering sales resistance, increasing trust, all of these things that are much more popular in sales today. But back when I was kind of getting started, it was still very much, the old beat them until they buy, type mentality. And so a lot of success in sales leadership. And then I ended up becoming an entrepreneur when I was 24, and it's kind of been a crazy road ever since. I'm sure you can relate because entrepreneurs, we kind of go left and right and sometimes both at the same time. But a lot of success in sales, a lot of success in mindset, a lot of success in building teams. We've been in different industries. So yeah, let's see where the conversation goes.
Good. I love that. Well, I love that, in talking about success, kind of the first thing you brought up there was like the intentionality behind being a dad and teaching your kids.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's very easy for people who have that entrepreneurial spirit to look at success in terms of, how many dollars are in the bank? How many employees do we have? Like the traditional scoreboard stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
It's very hard to measure like, hey, how quote unquote successful are you as a dad?
Yeah.
And I feel like, I'm sure, and I'd love for you to speak to this, without growing up as that example, how much intentionality you put behind kind of breaking that chain and being the one to say, hey, I'm not repeating that. I'm going to be extra present.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I'm probably like hyper vigilant, about the situation because I didn't have a dad growing up. But the intentionality is something that we can all do. In fact, that word is the superpower to success. If I'm more intentional about, process in my business, I'm going to get detailed. I'm going to create SOPs. I'm going to get really clear with my people. If I'm more intentional about using tools and relationships to build the team with the right people in the right seats, then I'm going to see success. If I'm more intentional with appreciating my wife and doing things that serve her and supporting her in that way, then I'm going to see results in my marriage. If I'm more intentional, like, so it's always that word, right? If I'm more intentional in the gym and what I eat, then guess what? My health increases, right? So like that word is actually the magic word, really. Applying it to fatherhood for me is like, well, I don't want to repeat the circumstances. Obviously, my kids have me, so their life is 100% different. But I'll tell you at the beginning, it was me subconsciously choosing financial, like security and going like hard in the businesses and making money because, that's what I didn't have, right? I didn't have the dad that provided and brought, financial security. And I saw my mom running around 2 and 3 jobs our whole life. And so subconsciously, that was what I was supposed to do. That was provider, protector, that's dad, that's husband. And that's only a part of it, actually, because in that mindset, what your family gets, what your spouse and your kids get is the crumbs, the leftovers. And it's like, here are the people that I say that mean the most to me, but they get the worst of me. And that doesn't make any sense. And so I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the family-driven entrepreneurs that we work with, know that. They don't necessarily know how to break that, right? And so some of that is the intentionality piece of their family, like we just got in talking about, which I'm sure we can go into detail if you want to. But really the big part of that is going, you've got to do the business thing in a way that gives you freedom. Because otherwise, you're always going to wear all the hats. You're always going to want to, quote unquote, be the hero and fix all the problems and be obsessed with chaos and all the things in your business, which then automatically, by default, gives your family the crumbs and the leftovers. And so pick your deal. If you want, if you really want the family scenario to work out well, we've got to create some process and some systems and got to hire some right people. And I got to give you some nuggets on how to treat your wife a little bit better and how to show up as a dad intentionally. But it's kind of the intentionality in multiple different areas. It's not just the one that's going to fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Do you know where you learned that? Like, was there a moment that wasn't your definition where you kind of understood, all right, cool, now I understand. Now I got to, put that intentionality in place?
Yeah. I don't know if it was this moment, but I've used this moment because it's so emotionally powerful. It was around this time. I'm like full bore, I've got 7 franchise locations in 3 states, 70 employees. I'm in my 20s. We're crushing it. I'm getting awards, local awards, national awards, franchise awards. Like, people are just, tooting my horn everywhere. And and on top of that, had taken a pretty big opportunity, with a pretty big name, a couple of big names, Frank Kern, Grant Cardone. We were building an agency, me and another guy, for those guys, outside of all my businesses, outside of all my real estate. And I remember it was December. We were living in Florida, and my wife took family photos without me. And like that sounds like, oh dang. But like, maybe I'll have to get you the picture. So like on the YouTube or whatever, you can like throw up the picture. But I have this gorgeous wife and these 3 little kids. My son was just born a few months before. My wife looks gorgeous, even though she just had a baby. Like, how is this possible? They're right on the intercoastal. Such a cute little family. No me, no dad, no anything. And so it's like, it hits me probably more now when I see that, when I tell that story, I'm like, oh, I was literally subconsciously repeating the circumstances that I grew up with without even knowing it. But because I wasn't there. Now, sure, I was financially providing. I was doing some of the things that I didn't have, but I wasn't there. And holy cow, you see that picture and it's just like, dang, that is rough, right?
100%. I laugh a little bit because I have a picture like that. It's a picture with Santa. It's like my wife, our kids, her mom,
Yep.
Santa, and I'm not dressed up as Santa.
Right.
I ain't in the picture. And like it hangs on our tree. I was laughing because we just put it away. Ooh. But I get that. And it is such a vivid picture of like,
bummer.
Yes,
I missed
you're
it.
providing for your family, but you're still not there. Like at that point, what difference and like what value do you provide for your family in terms of like leadership, support, example, if you're nothing else but really a glorified credit line? Like what else are you really providing? And obviously like that's an extreme. Yes, you're around sometimes. Are you around as much as you wanted to?
Exactly.
No. But like going through that and making that realization, what is your reaction after that? Because I would tend to imagine it's not All right, cool. I understand immediately. Let's fix it.
Right.
That's usually like a process you got to go through, right?
Yeah. And I think that the immediate maybe limiting belief is, well, I can't have it all. Like I can't have the business, success, money, and the things to be able to, the freedom really is what it comes down to. We'll talk about freedom all day long as an entrepreneur. Like that's why I'm building my business, for freedom. And I don't want people to tell me what to do, and I'm not going to work for anybody else, and blah, 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 blah. But actual freedom is being able to build a business that allows you to do what you want, when you want, where you want, with whom you want, how often you want, right? And so for family-driven entrepreneurs, that oftentimes looks like not necessarily buying the next Lamborghini, maybe, but really it's, playing the board game at home with the kids without having to have my phone blow up and things falling apart in my business, right? It could be just as simple as maybe it's spending 40 grand on a vacation. Whatever you want to do, it doesn't really matter to me. The money isn't actually the thing, although it does give us solutions. For the family-driven entrepreneur, it's here's the intentionality that you can do with your family if you have some level of freedom. It doesn't mean you have to have this like total non-existent owner absentee type of business, but you have to be intentional about it. So I think the limiting belief there is I can't have it all, which I definitely experienced. And so when you come up against that ceiling of like, oh, I can't have it all, immediately what you do is you go, okay, well, I feel guilty because I wasn't there, but I don't know how to fix it. And so I'm just going to go back to what I know, which is build a business, provide, put my head down, grind. And ultimately what that does eventually is it disconnects you completely from your family. Entrepreneurs are 35% more likely to have a divorce. 1 out of 3 entrepreneur kids are unable to regulate their emotions because of the family stress, quote unquote, in the house from the business. Entrepreneurs at an incredibly high level, like above 70%, don't see their family or don't spend time with their family in comparison to like regular employees. And so we know all these things, but like the stats prove it. And eventually what that leads to is the spouse going like, bro, if you're going to be so concerned about the money and the things and your people and your assistant and your team and whatever, then go be with them, because I'm going to pack up the kids and I'm going to go this direction. And I think that's really, really unfortunate. And then potentially it's depression and sadness and heaven forbid suicide. And I mean, we can go down the rabbit hole of terribleness, but like all that can be stopped from one, breaking open the lid of can you have it all? The answer is actually yes. Jim gave us the answer there. It's intentionality. It's going, okay, we'll just pause for a second. What can I do today that builds my family? What can I do today that builds my business? And start intentionally deciding the 2-3 things that I can do today, this week, to build my family, build my business, build my family, build my business, build my family, build my business. And they don't have to be big. It's the game. It's the 5 a.m. Like I get up pretty early to work out. I send a text message to my wife every morning that says, yesterday when you did X, I really appreciated this because of it made me feel this. Some form of that every single day, mostly. Like anybody can do that. I don't care how busy you are. I don't care how many businesses you have. I don't know how many employees you have or how many problems or chaos you're involved in. You can send a text message when you wake up, even if she's laying right next to you, and say, hey, honey, I really appreciated you making breakfast for me yesterday. Right? Like those are the intentionality pieces that actually make the difference over the course of 2 and 3 and 5 and 20 years,
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of what you're speaking to is the discipline and consistency aspect.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is another word that I'm sure that you love. It's just if you can be consistent in what you do, and especially if you can be intentional in what you do, those 2 things combined are, man, such a life hack. And it's so simple, really. It's just literally don't stop showing up. Like continue to do the little things and do them well. If you do them with intentionality, bonus points.
Yep.
But like how much good stuff comes from the people who just refuse to stop showing up.
Yeah. Yeah. You have people in your audience listening right now that know what to do, especially if they're listening to your podcast, right? Like they've heard people like me, like you, give them these pieces, these nuggets, as we call them, but then they just don't go do it. And so the challenge to the listener is going, don't just bob your head this time. Take it a step further. Maybe take it to your notepad and then decide, well, what can I do this week? Like take it to action, take it to doerisms. Like we got to be freaking doers at the end of the day, not doers just running around with their head cut off doing everything, but we've got to be action takers from a place of like, okay, well, why are you even listening to the No Half Cakes podcast here? if you're not going to take it and do something with it, right? That gap from listening and hearing and then implementation will always be one of the greatest leverage that you have as an entrepreneur. So yeah, I mean, get after it is really what it comes down to.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, when you were saying that, I read a study this morning. Have you ever heard of the expectation effect?
No. Tell me more.
Okay. So I was just looking just now to see if I could find the actual numbers for it because I don't want to fudge it, but I couldn't. So I'm just going to use generalities. They did a study. I don't remember the year. And they took a bunch of people who are allergic to gluten, who have gluten allergy. They gave them food and they told them this food has gluten in it. Okay. The food, spoiler, did not have gluten in it,
right.
But they told them ahead of time, we're going to give you food. This food is going to contain gluten.
Yeah.
Now, these people who ate this food, which was actually gluten-free, had started to receive the effects of the rashes, the nausea, the upset stomach, like all of these things.
Yep.
They started to receive the effects of that because they expected it from consuming this food. Right. So they did this whole big study. And again, I'll look for the actual numbers and, I'll share it with this. But they found from this that when you expect something to be the result, you are far more likely to experience that. Right. And so when you're talking about that for success, right, the same rules apply. If you believe you're going to be successful, if you believe you're going to have this life, you're far more likely to do it. Yep. And that same thing works with the negative side, right? If you believe it's not possible for me, guess what? You're going to look for evidence to support that.
Yep.
But if you believe that it's possible, if you believe, hey, yes, it is possible to have it all, to have a family, to have a personal life, to have the finances in order, right? All of these things are possible for you. If you believe that, how much more likely are you to actually go out and achieve that? Because the things are going to start to align in your favor, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. We get what we focus on. Your story reminds me, I've told it as a hypothetical, but maybe it's an actual story. But there's a guy that has 17 different personalities that they did a study on. And again, I don't know if this is a real study, but this is a story that I heard that I then repeat. So it's kind of funny. But the guy that has 17 different personalities, one of his personalities, his favorite drink is orange juice. And he drinks it all the time, loves it. One of his personalities is allergic to orange juice. And he was drinking orange juice in one of his personalities because he loves it and switched as he was drinking it to the guy that, doesn't like orange juice and is allergic and started to break out. Same guy. How is this possible? That same body, same everything. Well, it's everything that you just described.
Right.
It's all in the mind and what it is that we believe. The hypochondriac that I believe I'm sick, so I'm going to get sick. We know these things, but yet we miss the mark on increasing our faith to include the fact that no, I can build a business that allows me to have freedom, at least enough freedom to be able to take a couple of vacations with my family, or to be able to take off Friday afternoons and do the thing with my kids that they love to do, or be able to shut off my phone at certain times of the day and know that things aren't going to fall apart, right? Or from my family perspective, I believe that I can show up for my wife. I can be the things that she needs me to be. I can be empathetic. I can be tender, but yet strong and masculine, and lead her and step up into the things that she needs and give her clarity. And I can do these things. But again, to your point, if I don't think I can do those things, then guess what? I'm probably not going to be doing.
Yeah. How important do you think it is to have that picture of possibility? Like another person in your life who you can physically see, yeah, they did it. Right. So that's a person you can reference like, well, if they can do it, then so can I.
Dude, that phrase right there, if he can do it, she can do it. Why can't I? Why not me? Right. Is one of the most powerful, in my opinion, phrases that you can develop. Because what it actually is you are borrowing courage, right? Because someone went before you, someone stepped in the line of fire. They figured out the system, if there is one. They may have just jumped off the cliff before you and realized that, hey, I jumped and I didn't die. It's all okay. Go for it. All of that is, though, and I used to say this on my podcast, a couple of years ago when we first got started, is I just wanted people to hear other people's stories, because I didn't actually care about the tactics of what helped them get successful. Of course, those are helpful too. But I wanted the listener to walk away with and go, well, shoot, if that guy can do it, then surely I can. And I want your listeners right now to have the same. It's like, okay, this guy, no, nothing giving, like nothing, other than the fact that I was born in America, which I think is an incredible gift, but like nothing was given to me. And so like, if I can do it, why can't you? The truth is that you can. There was actually, and let me share this story. This is so powerful. This video came out on social media. I'm going to say like 5 or 6 years ago, but it was a little clip of a gym teacher, PE teacher, and he had all the kids line up on a starting line. They were all outside on a field, and they were going to race across the field, right? And there's, boys, girls, different ethnicities, like kind of a mixture of kids, right? And they're going to race across, and the winner wins, right? And he's like, oh, but before I blow the whistle, I'm going to ask some questions. 3 questions, 5 questions. I can't remember what it was. And if the answer is yes, then take 2 steps forward. If the answer is no, take 2 steps back. And so he'd ask questions like, if you had 2 parents in the home, yes, 2 steps forward, no, 2 steps back. If you had, things like that, other questions like that, right? 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And so by the time he got done asking these 3, 4, 5, 6 questions, whatever it was, 2 guys were like right on the line. They were all the way across the field, almost. They just had to step over the finish line. And then some guys like me, who had no privilege whatsoever, were way back there, right? And unfortunately, the point of the video was to show privilege, quote unquote. And it's like, well, actually, that's not the full story, because yeah, sure, he blows the whistle, the 2 guys step over and they won the race. But the cool thing about life is that it doesn't actually matter if those guys stepped over the finish line. I can still run and win because it's my race. It doesn't actually matter that I started back here. And so I've just been so naive to think, or maybe not think, about all of the other people who have had whatever. And I've just gone, you know what? I want to win. And so I'm going to run the race. And so that's what you're talking about. You're talking about deciding what you want, having some courage, borrowing it from others, getting in, masterminds, or listening to podcasts like this, and seeing that it can be possible, stealing or borrowing that courage, taking your own action of being intentional, like we talked about a few minutes ago, and just freaking running your race. Because guess what? At the end of the day, just because I'm winning doesn't mean that you can't, or just because Jim's winning doesn't mean you can't. In fact, we're like, come on, like, you can still, like, let's go, So I don't know. That's my experience.
No, I love that, because you know what? I think it really leads to authenticity, right? And just kind of owning your story and who you are and running your race. Because there's so many people who will then stop and not even try to run because they feel like, oh man, that person is so much further ahead than me.
Yeah.
You also have no idea how much further that person has to go. Like, it's not about one set finish line that we're all trying to get to, and the first one there wins. Each person has their own specific finish line, and it's irrelevant to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I feel like for the person who really just owns their story, who leans in on their authenticity, the stuff that like we used to hide, like maybe for you, it's your childhood and growing up and that stuff, which is scary to admit sometimes. You don't want to like lean in on that. For me, it was my no half cake story. Like, yeah, it sucks to say, hey, I sucked as a husband. I was not a great dad. You don't want to come out and say that. No one wants to be like, oh, cool, look at me. Look how terrible of a husband and dad I was. It's uncomfortable as heck. But like when you lean into that, now you become that picture of possibility for other people.
That's right.
You're now giving those other people, a way out, a way forward. But it only happens kind of when you own that authenticity part.
Yeah.
And I laugh a little bit because we've covered 2 words in depth in this conversation so far.
Yeah.
Which are authenticity and intentionality.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you catch kind of where I'm going with this, but the first letter of each of those words, AI.
Yeah. Super funny.
So I'm giving a presentation this week, and I was writing my speech this morning about the future of AI.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking about, hey, what we're doing right now as a society is a race to the bottom. Like the difference between all of these tools, everyone's coming out with a different tool, right? And they're all eventually going to start to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And the access to those tools is going to start to become easier for everybody.
That's right.
Right. So the differentiator between you and me and the next guy becomes less and less if we're just leveraging traditional AI, right? The artificial intelligence stuff.
Yep.
But what I think, like looking forward to the future a little bit, if we lean in on authenticity and intentionality, like you can't replicate that.
No.
There's no possible tool in the world that will be you.
Yep.
But if you replace yourself, if you don't step into the power that is you, to the story that is you, to the authenticity that is you, you've replaced yourself already. You've taken yourself out of the race. Right. And so I love, there's no coincidences. I love this conversation has brought up both of those words.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's just confirmation of how important it is if you truly want to be successful in whatever that means to you.
Yeah.
Being yourself and being authentic and intentional with your time, your talents, and your treasures is, I think, the surest way to get there.
Yeah. There's a lot of just old school success, language, mindset, I'm a Napoleon Hill student and another work, like that, but just 100-year-old, this is how you be successful type stuff. And at the end of the day, really what success, like when you think about people who are successful, they have a magnetism, to them. They have this thing that draws you to them. And, sure, they may have an outgoing personality. They might have, maybe a cool looking beard or whatever, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the internal pieces of being so authentic and where that just radiates to the person or people next to you. And they're like, man, the experience, the feeling, the frequency that I get from that human is different.
Yeah.
And I'm drawn in. It's not necessarily the enthusiasm, although that's a part of it. It's not just the personality, although that's a part of it. It's this ability to be genuine or to be authentic and go, well, actually, this isn't just how I am with you. It's how I am with everybody. And it's how I am with myself. And that's where intentionality comes in. It's like, if I'm going to talk about this on a podcast, I better be darn willing to do it when no one's watching.
Right.
Whether it's the text to my wife or the gym in the morning or the not eating sugar later today when it's presented to me at lunch or whatever. So I think that you're 100% right, especially when you talk about AI and how transactional it will become. It already is. The human element is one piece, but then there's just a different layer to where success, in my mind, isn't necessarily just the money. It's the who I've become, right? And of course, that's the process of the game that we get to play forever, which I love. But I want to become more authentic, more magnetic, more connected, right? Like when someone meets me immediately, I want them to be like, "Whoa, that was different. Gotta get more of that guy," or whatever,
Right.
whatever that phrase is for them in their spirit,
Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. And I feel like that becomes sort of the side effect rather than like the intention. The more you focus on being the best version of you, right, you radiate that energy out because it's just easy. And you don't need to, like we talked before about freedom.
Yeah.
And I love your opinion on this, but to me, I think one of the freest things you could possibly do is to be yourself, where you don't have to be this different version of you at work, at home, with your kids, wherever.
That's right.
Like you're just you. You have the same set of core values.
Yeah.
And you make decisions the same way. It doesn't matter who you're in front of. It's just you. It's so much easier to operate your life that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even, and I hear what you're saying and I'm in such alignment with that. I think of it even as a Christian, like we're kind of turn this like spiritual just for a half second and going, when I think about other people that have faith, they're Christians, whatever, the problem that even someone like me has is that I see that they're different. That they're different in different circumstances. They're not genuine. They're not authentic. And so even from like a spiritual perspective, I want to be that same like authentic, magnetic person because here's what's happened from a faith perspective. I've had people who don't have any faith whatsoever go, dude, why do you live the way that you do? This is so interesting. You are so interesting. I'm curious. And I go, well, actually, let me peel away all the success principles because here's where that really comes from, and I'm able to share my faith. And like that to me is what it means to like be a Christian or be Christ-like. And it's like, it doesn't have to, I'm not wearing a weird Jesus sticker, I'm just being genuine to what I think I'm supposed to be. And people are drawn to that no matter what. And so anyway, I think that we're absolutely saying the same stuff. I had to kind of throw that in there because I think it's probably the depths, of who Chaz is, At the end of the day, I think that loving people is that. I mean, like that's why we're authentic. We have the freedom. Yeah, that feels nice and it's self-serving. That's great. But like part of why I'm here is to like serve and love others and do the people thing, and that for me is connected to my faith. And so it's like, man, how am I going to do that if I'm not authentic, if I'm different people to different people, like that doesn't make any sense,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because it speaks to the performative aspect of it that I'm sure you've seen way too much is like the people who are, you should give God all the glory 100%. Right. But, and this is my personal belief, I don't align with the people who are now standing on the Bible using it as a platform to sell stuff, or the people who are going to go out there and intentionally force every conversation into this lens. Cause what it's really doing is it's pushing people away.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yes, it's the long game.
Yeah.
Right. I believe, hey, if you're willing to just go be Christ-like in all of your relationships and just to live that example out, it's going to take you longer for people to recognize that. But when they do, they're going to see what it's really like, right? You might be the only time that they interact with the gospel all day, all week, all month, all year.
And the word Jesus, the name Jesus may not have even come up.
Yes. Right. And if you start bashing people over the head to try and force them into this one certain angle, right? Yeah, it's going to work with some people. But to me, I find it so off-putting because it's not genuine.
Yeah.
Right. It's just performative. And I feel like for a lot of those people, they might be so new in understanding who they are that became too much of their identity.
Yeah.
And I know it's right. Like you should find your identity in Christ and there's a fine line that we got to walk here to really explain this properly.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the genuine walking out of who you are and your authenticity, right? In those relationships and being able to serve other people, to not judge. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I think of it as a sales guy, like I'm just a true sales guy at the end because, 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 years ago, sales was a whole lot more like what we're talking about, like evangelism is still today, right? Like hard hitting, cram it down your throat, be unrelatable. It's not genuine. Like that's just their approach of sharing. Unfortunately, humans have developed. We've, especially millennials now, as we've become, millennials and down really have become the most emotionally intelligent generations that there are. And I'm doing air quotes for the listeners. Doesn't mean that the X and boomers aren't. It just means that from a generational perspective, we've become more in tune with our feelings, and also we've got the internet and now AI to like give us information. And so I don't actually, just like with I'm in the process of purchasing a vehicle and I've had to like straighten out a couple sales guys. Go like, whoa. First off, let me help you. Okay. Cause I'm a deal. I'm a qualified buyer. I know what I want. If you got what I want, I'll buy it. Right. But no games, right? Let you just be you, I'll be me. And if it works out, it works out. But that's, translating that over to what we're talking about, with evangelism, it's like, actually, it's just the approach. If we can just, create a new sales process and inside of that, you be genuine and authentic and just actually love and care for people, I bet the outcomes are different. I bet your actions are probably different.
Yeah. Is that what it means to be a king in your perspective?
Dude, good question, man. The king is he holds the responsibility of power, and, maybe that's a dad, maybe that's a business owner, maybe it's a mom, it's not a masculine, feminine thing. It's a person that has power. And we've seen in history, even in biblical history, how kings have done that irresponsibly, or without the people that they reign over or lead, without them in mind and is self-serving. But I think a real king, one that, or a real leader, right, is one who loves well and takes the responsibility of power seriously. I'm a huge fan, and my personal belief that I'm about to share is not necessarily what I think all people should do. So as a listener, hang tight here. But my personal belief for Chaz is that I don't drink alcohol. I've never have, because if that substance can deteriorate my decision-making ability, then then I can't make good decisions, right? And as a king, it says in Proverbs 31 that I'm not supposed to drink heavy drink, because if I make bad decisions, there's a bunch of people that get the result of my bad decisions. And it doesn't, my wife drinks, wine or, whatever. So it's like, that's not the point. You can definitely go have a beer. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying from as a king is that I hold the power of responsibility closely. Like I understand that there are people and their actual lives, their families, their day to day, their livelihoods, their health, their mindset, their who they are, their identity even, right? And I have somewhat of control or impact over that. Whoa, right? But for the king, for the person who's made for this, that doesn't feel heavy. It's like, here, put it right there. I've got space. I can handle it. That's what a king, if you want to ask yourself if you're made to be a king or queen, that's the mindset. It's going, oh, like that, the responsibility of power, like, oh, put it right here. I'll take good care of it, right? Of course, that can be convoluted with evil, like everything else in the world. But this is a person who cares and who manages well, right? Is a good steward, is prudent in their decision making ability, and leads and impacts others well with excellence. And it doesn't mean that they're perfect. It doesn't mean that they never make mistakes. But it does mean that their success is extremely tied to the success of the entire kingdom. You got all these different components, of the kingdom. And different people that fill in those components, and their success is my success. Otherwise, I'm just this bad king that's self-serving and the one on top that gets all the benefit, which is what we think about in the negative sense.
Yeah, and we've seen probably way too many examples of that.
Yeah, because I think right.
Yeah, and it's important too. I think for the context of this, like, just because you carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy, right? So just because you as a king can hold that and make space for it does not mean you don't suffer.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a difference when you learn to rejoice in that suffering, because you appreciate what is connected to it, right? And I think there's a lot of mindset work that is involved in that.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I've got a phrase that we use, that only the king knows how heavy the crown really is. And that's basically what you're saying, is like, at the end of the day, just because I'm made for this doesn't mean that it doesn't require some sort of sacrifice, whether it's the actual heaviness, the weight of the situation, or the leading or the decision making. Like, we can all relate to that, 2 a.m. scenario where we're still sitting at the desk, we're uncertain about bills or, employee, whatever the scenario is. We can all relate to that. But to your point, it's not just that. It's going, okay, I'm made for this, and where's the joy? Like, how, like, and I think that's where kind of like the deciding line is for, like, when people go like, well, am I made for this? It's like, well, to a degree, even though it's heavy, you want it. You wouldn't want it to be given to somebody else. You go, no, whoa, no. I know it's heavy, but put it right here.
Yeah, I think there's probably a part of that too, that, like, you have to understand where your cup gets filled from.
Oh yeah,
because I think that there's a lot of people who may look at those scenarios and think, man, this is too much for me because I'm not getting my cup filled from this specific scenario, so I can't pour out and carry that weight.
That's right.
And the example I'm thinking of yesterday, my wife spent the day in the hospital. She's back home. Thank you for asking ahead of time. But she wasn't expecting to go, obviously.
Yeah.
So last minute change of plans. I got to shift some things around, pick up the kids from school, get them ready. My daughter had her first concert last night. So she was a little bit anxious. Unrelated to any of this, the pump in my fish tank blew up and started pouring water all over my living room.
Oh, that's fun.
So the point I share is, like, there's a lot of things I got to try and manage at once. I got to get the fish tank fixed because there's living animals in there. I don't want to die, right? Clean up the water, fix that whole mess, get the kids from school, pick out a dress, braid my daughter's hair, get her to school on time. Also, while taking care of my wife, managing my son, who's also got a cold and he's sick. And none of that is like, all right, cool, but what are those people going to do for Jim?
Yeah.
Right. And I say all that, it's like, at the end of the day, what a freaking blessing it is to be able to be the one that those people can count on to show up and help them get through that. Right. For my daughter to have her first chorus concert and for me to be there to give her flowers afterwards.
Yeah.
What a blessing of an opportunity that is.
Yes.
To be able to have the technology in my hand to FaceTime my wife, to be able to be there to watch it. Yeah, she couldn't be there in person, but we could still make her feel loved and appreciated and connected while she's still getting her health taken care of.
Yeah.
Right. So like if I sat there in that moment and said, man, but how are these people going to serve me?
Yeah.
Right. As the king in that family, how are they going to serve me?
Yeah.
Why do I got to serve everybody else? Why do I have to put Jim's responsibilities last on the list? Because I got to show up for the freaking fish before I show up for myself. No, that's not it. Right. It's the understanding the perspective of like, these are things that do serve me because look at the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right. Look at how amazing this land is. Right. I got my family, I got the school, the community, and all of these things who they see again goes back to that picture of possibility.
Yeah.
You look at the people in the community who say like, man, that guy is able to show up for his family. I see him everywhere. He volunteers for the PTA. How? Right? How is it possible?
Yep.
And you have a conversation. That dude's like, oh, cool. Now I get it. And then it starts to like those dominoes fall over one by one.
I love it.
But man, I know that was a bit of a rant, but
no, dude, that was, I mean, you should tell that story and continue to tell it. It's real. As we talked about being authentic, the situation that you've described is, it could have gone, all those problems could have been in your business in that day, right? It's still the same situation of finding joy in the process, but then also recognizing that like, it's not always like that and giving time. And then I guess maybe the other half would be like, how does Jim fill up his cup, and that's where, you got to get in relationship, with others that can pour into you, which is a struggle for entrepreneurs. We have a community of people that, it's so funny. I have to like, browbeat people sometimes, not actually, but like, hey, the value of, building a relationship, you don't just like meet somebody once and then like, we're going to pour into each other. It's like, that's not how that works. We got to get to know each other. Like Jim and I, like this is the first time we've met. We've had an incredible conversation. I'm going to want to talk to Jim again. But like, if I never talk to Jim again, Jim and I aren't going to be able to pour into each other's life.
Right.
So that takes, what was that word? Intentionality. Hey, yo.
I love it. Chaz, I want to thank you for this conversation, man. It has been a true honor to sit here and have this conversation, and none of that would be possible had you not decided to show up. So I want to thank you again for all those hard moments where like, man, maybe you questioned if it was worth it, because had you not kept showing up for yourself, you would not be here today, and the people who are listening to this right now would not have gotten the benefit of that. So just incredible honor to you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim, for having me, man. You're doing incredible work here. And I would just, I would say to anybody listening, like lock in places like this, people like Jim, they're not the answer to all get out, but man, you can take some courage from a guy like Jim. So just keep locked in here.
Thank you. How can we best support you going forward?
Yeah. I mean, if an entrepreneur is listening right now, they're family driven and they want to take an easy step towards spending some time building their family, because they've been building their business and they realize they need to put some effort into their family. We do a family mastermind vacation in the summer. So it's coming up in July this year. We've still got some seats available. This is for the whole family. It's an actual family vacation, but we bring in some sessions and speakers for the adults on parenting and marriage and family wealth and legacy. And we also do some business stuff for the entrepreneurs, but with the kids, we do some workshops on how to start your first business and how to live exceptionally even as a kid. And it's just an incredible event. So if you're an entrepreneur and taking some steps towards building some of that intentionality with your family is important to you, you can go to gtkfamilymastermind.com. That's gtkfamilymastermind.com, and you can apply for that event. It's a curated, invite-only scenario. You would eventually talk to me, and I would decide if we're a good fit because it's my wife and kids that are going to be there, and I'm only going to allow awesome people to be there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And that, I assume the GTK is the Gather the Kings, and that's your podcast?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Podcast is GTK or Gather the Kings, Driven to Win, name of the podcast. But yeah, we take the family stuff seriously. So if that's you, we'd love for you to come check us out.
I love that. Well, again, I want to give you tremendous honor and thank you for being here. It's been a true pleasure.